My name is James Hendry, and I am walking around here the, extensive regions of the western Greater Kruger National Park. Filming me now is Senzo Nkunzemnyama Yasekwazulu. There he is, with his three-fingered salute. I'm not sure what that means or where it comes from. On security detail, for the first time in a long time with me, we have got Roberto. He is over there, and he's teaching at the moment Ralph a track or two. Ralph is a new presenter with us, just learning the ropes of the bushwalk. Give us a wave. Hello? Give us a wave. There we are. There they are. They are alive, and clearly their ears not functioning quite as we might expect. On the other vehicle, Noelle is driving around here somewhere. I'm not sure where she's going. She's being filmed by the inimitable
beautiful morning. The sun is out, yay! I am Noelle, and welcome to Safari Live. We are interactive. You can follow us, hashtag Safari Live, on Twitter or on YouTube chat. On camera, I have the Vildy. Hello, Vildy. Thumbs up, thumbs up. All right, so Vildy still has not seen his leopard. It is a beautiful morning to be tracking leopard. We're going to look for some leopard tracks. We're also probably going to check to see what our Styx pride got up to. And then it is going to be a very, very, very beautiful day for birding, especially with the sun coming out. I don't know if everyone can hear the bird sounds behind me going on. So we've got black-crowned tragras calling. There's a black-headed oriole calling behind me. I can hear some crested francolin. I can hear a lilac-breasted roller. Yeah, there's a lot going on. It's super exciting. Also, I'm going to see if we can find some good tracks for us this morning. And then the last thing that we're going to check up on is we haven't seen Shadow and her youngster in a while. We chatted about it a little bit last night, so I just want to head into an area where I roundabout think she might be and see if we can pick up anything. The hyenas came near camp last night and were whooping up a storm. I can also hear them more to my west, so there might be something potting that side. So we've got a lot of investigating to do this morning. So let's carry on with our investigation. Sunshine. Ooh, sorry, James was rudely interrupted by gremlins, I believe, so sorry about that. So let's head back to him and let him finish his deep pondering thought.
Yes, there's not hugely deep pondering thoughts I have for you. I'm sorry we lost you. I'm sorry we lost you a little bit earlier. I was just telling you, or I was about to tell you, that we're going to head off towards the pinkening sky over there. Well, it's going from pinkening to peach at the moment, and we're heading towards Treehouse Dam, the last place where we saw Shadow and her cub. Of course, that was just about 4 days ago, and hopefully we will be able to repeat that process today. You saw Herbert and you saw Ralph. Of course, Ralph has joined us for the next 3 months or so, which was very exciting. He's just learning the ropes at the moment. And I don't think that I managed to tell you who was in the final control room, which I was doing at the time. And it is, of course, Kirsten directing us. We've got Alicia twiddling on the knobs and tapping the keys. And then Geraldine telling us what to do from the back. And, of course, the Wild Earth fashionista Conrad on tech duty today. So that is all the housekeeping I have to tell you, and of course to encourage you to talk to us, please, throughout the course of the show. Now, over here we have a strange-looking bushel. And I was going to stop here and say to you that it was an asparagus, but it is not, because it's got thorns on it. And I'm not sure what it is, and so that is a particularly poor way to begin my investigation of the nature here in the early summertime. I'm not sure what this thing is. It's quite an unpleasant feeling thing. We can have a look here, of course, at the little monkey pods that are taking over. And what's quite interesting is that we have this clearing, okay, we know it's quarantine clearings, and these monkey pods tend to become, Well, they tend to start growing in fairly large stands. So in other words, they become bush encroaching species. Now, that would normally happen in a year of poor rain, and this year, I think already we've had some pretty good rain, and so what you'll find is that the little monkey pods that are around here in the seedbed are probably going to be outcompeted by the grass plants, because the grass plants have got roots that allow them to take advantage of the water closer to the surface, where of course a tree has got a long taproot, and so in times of drought, when the grass roots cannot reach any water, the tree roots often can. So I think you'll find that from a bush encroachment point of view, this will be a very good year for the grasses, not the bushes. I must try and find out what that spiky asparagus thing is. Of course, what's going to happen now is that all the flowers are going to come out as the sun warms the earth after the rains that we've had, and I'm going to be forced to re-ask you what all of them are, because I find it almost impossible to remember the names of the flowers as the winter recedes, or over the course of the winter. So that's the story here. Let's have one last look at the sun. Once we get past this tree, there we are. Is it not beautiful? It really is very seldom not worth getting up before the sun comes up so that you can see that every day. If you happen to live in a climate, of course, where it's largely grey and the sun is invisible for most of the time, well, I guess that's not true. But out here, we probably have about 300 days of sunshine a year. And so it's always worth being up when the sun arrives. Nikki, apparently you are requesting a butterfly today. Well, we'll do our best. It would be very nice to find one right now. Because it's so chilly, of course the butterfly won't be flying around the place, and we'd actually be able to get a picture of it. We had a lovely, well, not lovely for the animal, of course, lovely for us. On my last bushwalk, a marbled, was it marbled? Marbled emperor moth. Unfortunately it was dead, but it was a very nice sighting. Let's have a little investigation around here abouts. I can tell you that this plant is going to produce very beautiful pink flowers, one of my favorite colors out here. It's a very deep pink color, and this of course is the hibiscus micrantha. Thank you, Judy H, of course. And then the other thing to see here is that there is a huge, well, not a huge, in fact it is quite huge. This is a Ziziphus mucronata tree, a buffalo thorn, and you can see it has been well mangled by the elephants, but it is coming up again. And the extent of it is round about where I'm drawing the circle. So I suspect it's been mangled many, many times by elephants and various other animals, and not just that, that's done, of course, as we see with the trees out here, is that it has expanded the rootstock, and I would be very interested to know exactly how old this tree is, because if it had not been mangled by elephants, I suspect it would probably be about 3 meters tall. Just amazing how the animals and plants here interact with each other, and how they affect one another's lives, and how the number of variables that there are affecting just a small plant like this are almost inconceivable to us, to the extent that it is almost impossible for us to predict what's going to happen here, and therefore almost impossible for us to manage a wildlife area, to sort of manipulate it to our own ends. Let's head across, while you ponder that, to Noelle, who I believe has got a halo above her head created by the orb of the sun.
Yes, darling James, we have a beautiful halo created by the beautiful sun in a beautiful artistic shot of a marula tree, and then we have some wonderful tracks. So I'm just going to get out of the car. Ooh, and check them out. That was not planned by any stretch of the imagination. There we are. Okay, so we have elephant tracks, and what you can see nicely here is the back, sort of the heel of the elephant, and you can even see the little marks like you have in the bottom of your hand coming through there. So this elephant has meandered. There's actually 2 elephants here. There might even be more. Has meandered up, and as it's meandering up, it's also dragging its trunk. There's the trunk being dragged. So here we've got another track a little bit around her. This is the front track. The other one I showed you was the back track. Now, as they're walking, and the males like to drag their trunk like this, and you can actually even see a bigger drag here. They're also smelling as they move. So if I'm the elephant moving like this, his nose is coming down and he's doing this because his eyes are over here. And it's how he investigates where he needs to put his feet to be able to move. So let's track these 2 boys down the road a little bit. These are quite fresh, and see what happens. And then we are going to see about the shadow and cub business. Vildi had a really good thought about coming up and around and checking to see if she's moving sort of this side. So we'll meander this way and see what's potting. Cheeky elephants. Now, one of the reasons why those elephant tracks are so flat has to do with the cartilage. So their bones sit like this, and then you get cartilage and then cartilage. It's like big shock absorbers when they walk. It's also one of the reasons why they're so quiet and stealthy for such a large animal. This Balanites is looking really beautiful, Vildi. Sorry, the light and the sky, and it's very fresh because we had that rain. And then the texture on the base of this greenthorn torchwood is interesting. Well, it's appeasing to me. It's very interesting. I know Steph really likes to hug trees. I am not opposed to hugging trees. They do have some good energies, good vibes. That's my deep pondering thought for the morning. Wonder if James will hug any trees today. But something I want you to notice, Vildi just did a beautiful job coming up so you could see the textures on those bark there. At the base of this tree, towards the bottom, it's fluted or buttressed in a way. That's the terms for it, and you can actually see how it comes up and does that. And one of the reasons why this tree, ooh, hear the woodlands. Did you guys hear that? So summer. One of the reasons why the tree does that is to be able to establish a large root base that is not a taproot system going in, and it spreads it out a little bit like this to keep it firm in the soil, that buttressing. You'll also notice with a lot of very large trees in sort of more dense jungle type areas with a lot of leaf litter and everything that's around, with that type of soil, they have a lot of buttressed or fluted bases to be able to hold themselves down. Now, something that I find super interesting about the Balanites is that there is an ongoing project in parts of Africa started by a nonprofit that I can't think of the name just now, where they're taking the seeds of the Balanites and then pressing them to make oil that works like paraffin works. So if you can't get access to paraffin for lanterns, and there's a lot of places across the continent that don't have any electricity and use paraffin, or sometimes electricity is just too expensive depending on where you're living, and pressing and using that little bit of oil, they make little cakes out of it. That works. And also for soap, using that oil to help produce soap. It's pretty interesting. Okay, there's our beautiful tree and our wonderful moment. Ooh, Snazzy, you are asking, is this an easy tree for leopards to climb? And Snazzy, I would say yes. I'm just gonna stop the car here. Not only is this light extraordinarily beautiful, but Snazzy, can you see how nice the angle is on the back side of the tree? Coming up like that. So yeah, so that would be a nice place for them to lie. But Snazzy, also, I have seen beautiful trees like this, and you would expect a leopard to go into this beautiful tree, but then just behind this torchwood is another torchwood. You can see the even thinner one, and a lot of the times they will choose this very unassuming looking tree and hide up in there, as opposed to that beautiful branch that we saw now. It's all dependent upon how the leopard feels, pretty much. If I were a leopard, I would want to choose this because photographically speaking, it's gorgeous and it allows us to view a leopard without a lot of leaves in front. But you know, leopards like to hide, so it'll probably choose that little one in the back to really put itself into a position where it doesn't have to be seen as easily. All right, our elephant tracks are heading down the road. And then off a bit. And down the road a bit again. I'm so excited that the sun is out. It's making my whole morning. Okay, so the last time we had a good view of Shadow and her youngster was in this area. And since then, we have not seen her, and there's some water buck that are here. That was when James found her on foot in the morning, and then I came and had a little look with the vehicle, and then that afternoon Tristan went, and the hyenas had chased her and her youngster away from their impala kill. Oh, sorry, it's not water bucks, it's kudu. That's what happens when you stare into the sun. But they're looking lovely. Kirst is reminding me about our collective noun that we all decided on yesterday afternoon for kudu. They are now a cutlery of kudu. I don't think I've laughed that hard in a really long time. That was a good choice, everybody. I enjoyed that. So, oh, does everyone hear the woodpecker in the background there? Let's see if it does it again. Bearded woodpecker. Okay, so yesterday afternoon, while Tristan and I were out and about, I can actually see the woodpecker at our sort of 10 o'clock on that dead tree. Yeah, there. That one there, perfect. Of course, and then it moves right after I've seen it. Sorry guys, there was a beautiful woodpecker sitting up there and it flew off. That's fine, we'll go back to our lovely kudu. Sorry, Viam. So we were talking about collective nouns yesterday, as we all love a collective noun, and I was saying that I have never found the collective noun for kudu, and I've checked a few places, and we should all come up with an idea. So we had a thought for a cluster, we had a thought for a chaos, a conundrum, there was a knife and fork, there was a few different ones, and then I believe everybody sort of chatted with each other on the different platforms, and a cutlery of kudu was chosen as the collective noun. So we're gonna carry on with that. It was inspired, absolutely inspired. That light's really pretty. If anyone's doing screenshots today, I'm really enjoying this backlighting with these female kudu, our cutlery of kudu. Maybe if they lift their heads a little bit, that could be one of your screenshots for this morning. I have to say I'm also really enjoying, some of the viewers have been sending me little collages of screenshots from the show, and it's nice to get home and be able to check my phone and have these beautiful little messages come up. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for sending those. All right, so our very selective browsers, these kudus, eating very selective types of leaves and showing us how healthy or not healthy our environment is. So when the environment is healthy, the kudu and the warthogs are very healthy. And the kudu in particular right now are looking healthy. I know everyone was worried a little while ago about how dry everything was looking, but it's just because our rainy season hadn't started. Then we had those few days with that bit of drizzle and a little bit of light rain and then some sunshine, and all the green grass started coming out and all the new leaves started coming out. And then we had our beautiful big 19 mm shower the other evening, and now we're getting a sunny day after a cold day and cloudy day yesterday. So we're going to get a lot of new growth from today. It's gonna be good. There we go, browsing on the new shoots now. With the onset of these new shoots popping out and new leaves, the kudus are going to be after those, as those are the ones that are higher in nutritional value. And they are aware, they do realize the difference between the old leaves and the new leaves, very similar to how we would look at a piece of fruit and you can tell a new, nice, ripe piece of fruit or something that's a little bit old. They're fully aware of that. Okay, so another reason for stopping for kudu like this, or any sort of antelope species, is it gives you a little bit of time to listen. It gives you time to listen for any sort of calls that will be happening. I'm not hearing much at the moment, so let's head back over to James and see what he has to show us, and Vildi and I will keep up our search.
There's something very exciting in the top of the tree that you're looking at there. It's a black cuckoo shrike. There it is. Can you see it there, Sense? Yes. Now, it's a bird we hear quite often, but we don't see it very often. It looks like a drongo, pretty much, but it doesn't have a forked tail. It's got a square tail, and it's got a little rim of yellow on its beak, which looks like it sort of had a plate of custard and not wiped its mouth properly. And it's one of only 3 pure black birds that we get out here, the drongo being the other one and the black cuckoo being the other one, as opposed to the black cuckoo shrike. And the female unusually is slightly more attractive than that one, but it's not because she's displays. She's a sort of pale yellow and black colour, and I think that's got largely to do with trying to stay slightly more disguised than he is. We're just going to sneak up to the tree and see if we can't get a better look of this custard-mouthed black bird. He's in that side of the tree now, Sins, on the right-hand side. In fact, there are 2 of them. I wonder if there isn't a female. And they make a kind of, sort of, the call is like a fast-forwarded old telephone, if you know what I mean. There he goes. He has flown a war. Oh, there's something red in there. It's a woodpecker. Have you got it? Does that grunt mean yes or no, Senzo? Yes. It means yes. Okay, good. So we've got... There's a woodpecker in there. That's fantastic. I think I'm looking at a different one from the one you're looking at, because apparently the one you're looking at is pecking away. Ah. It's 2 little cardinal woodpeckers. There's a male and a female there. You can just hear them going tuck, 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 tuck. Now, I believe today we have an ambient microphone on. Kirsten, can you confirm the sound of the ambient microphone? No. Well, Senzo, you're enjoying the sound of the ambient microphone, aren't you? Yes, he is. Good. You can hear the birds, though. Good. Let's walk a little bit closer to this tree. It seems to be a tree filled with quite a lot of activity. Woodpeckers, cuckoo shrikes. It would be lovely to show you the female cuckoo shrike. The tree is a black monkey thorn, Verchilia berkii. And slowly we're getting a little bit of heat coming over the land after a chilly start. You see that woodpecker up there, Sens? Now, Rebecca, you are commenting on the fact that that woodpecker was 125 on your bird list. Can you just tell me, Rebecca, is that over both locations? Can you see it there, Sins? $125 birds. Pretty good return. You got it. There we are. And look at the tiny branch it's pecking. It's just drilling away little bits of bark, seeing if it can find some beetle larvae, some ants perhaps, or some termites that have got up there even. They both are chipping away at very, very thin branches. And I think this tree's a particularly good one for them because there are sections of it that have died off. And those dead sections are going to be a wealth of little insects and grubs and things that they can find to eat. And now we have a question from somebody called Love My Charlie Face. Well, Love My Charlie Face, you're interested in whether or not these woodpeckers are migratory. They are not. They live here. All 4 species over here live here all year round. And like most of the animals that live here all year round, they will be relieved for the return of the summer. So, of course, the reward of not migrating is that the perilous journey that so many birds take means that, of course, you're safer than you might be otherwise, but it means you've got to get through a dry and cold season when the food resources are very poor. Are you struggling with the shadow there, Sens, or shall I do that? Is that helpful? There we are. And Rebecca, you say you have 125 birds just here at Djuma, and you have a separate Mara list. That's very interesting. I'd love to know what your Mara list was as well. Okay, let's continue along the way. We're going to go down through here, past the old hyena den, and see if we can't pick up on some evidence of leopard in the area. Always interesting to go along the road to the old hyena dens because, of course, hyenas like roads and paths. And what we can see here along this old road is that there are no hyena tracks at all. So I'm 99% sure that there won't be over here. And I haven't been to the hyena den since my return from holiday. So hopefully I'll be able to go up there, or perhaps this afternoon even, depending on whether I'm on foot or in a vehicle. Tristan yesterday saw no less than 38 wildebeest. Now for here, that is a massive herd. That is like seeing 300,000 in one place in the Mara. And here are their tracks. We've got them all over here. Here's a good one. Now what we're looking at when we look at a track like this, what's easy to identify, was once explained, because it's very square at the front. It's not pointed like most antelope would be, like that. Can you see that, Sensor? It's very square in front, or slightly rounded and square, and then very straight and rounded at the back. And also slightly exploded. Now, by exploded, I obviously don't mean that there's been some sort of ordnance involved. I mean that the 2 cloves of the hooves split a little bit more than many other antelope do. So that is the wildebeest, and it is about, well, I'll put my hand next to it to show you the size. There you are. So I don't have a particularly big hand, but it's almost as big as my hand. So I think that was probably a big blue wildebeest. Conchates taurinus. Right, let's just continue. See what we can find up here. So it is the most glorious morning, and you know, while it's chilly, it's really not unpleasant having a chilly morning at this time of the year, because it can be beastly hot, and we haven't had much beastly hotness this year, though I think August and September were quite rough. Let's see what else we can find here on the roads. Oh, very little activity. A lizard. Come look at the lizard track here. It's quite fun. Can you see this track here? It has dragged its belly across the road, and you can just see the indents of its feet. You see that? There they are. That's quite sweet, actually. A little lizard. There's something about a lizard in the sun, relaxing and just sort of contemplating life, that makes me feel very peaceful. It always looks like they have their priorities correct. They spend a lot of time just sort of staring at the day, thinking about things, as opposed to rushing around hell for leather. Now, up in the Mara, it is just past 6:30, which means that Jamie and Brent down on the Mara floor exploring the place, and Jamie is now going to tell you about her exciting plans for the morning.
And welcome to the sunrise safari here in the Masai Mara. And because, as you've been told, it is 6:30 in the morning, we're waiting at the gate. The key seems to have gone walkabout, but as soon as it's open, we'll be heading down to the plains of the Masai Mara to find what we can find. My name is Jamie, and this morning Adrian is on camera with me, so he's here on his job interview along with Archie, who's on a vehicle with Brent. So I'm sure you'll all be very, very welcoming and of course very kind, because although Adrian comes from a live sport background, this is the first time he filmed wildlife? Yeah. First time filming wildlife, so very, very exciting for him, and I'm sure you'll all join me in expressing a warm welcome to Adrian and Archie. So we're live from the Masai Mara in Kenya. So you've been in South Africa, for our new viewers, experiencing the wonders there. We have all sorts of wonders here as well, which includes the vast open plains of the Mara. And we're going to be searching for, I think we're going to be searching for the sausage tree pride. You know what my plans are like, they usually go awry. And essentially we're just waiting for the key, really. There's a boom in my way, and I can't drive through until the key arrives, but as I said, key has gone missing. So what we're going to do for now is we're going to send you back all the way to South Africa to Noelle, who I have heard is doing an absolutely amazing job, and she's busy searching for leopards.
You. I appreciate that. It's nice to have you guys back. So Vilde and I have found leopard tracks, but not just any leopard tracks. These leopard tracks are huge. It is a big, big male. So we're thinking Tingana, or what was the other one? Sorry, Vilde, you did some. Kajima. Those are the two we're going with. Remember, it rained quite a bit. There was a couple mornings ago where Senzo and I were in this area and we were tracking a male leopard, but the tracks were nowhere near as large as these ones. So we're just meandering. We went over a little bit of a rough patch in the general direction that he was headed. So we're just going to meander through and then sort of cordon off the block like we've talked about before. So come around, and then if we can't see where he's come out, we'll go back to where we lost him and then start in from there. Super exciting. And it is still cool enough for a bit of movement. So if we are lucky enough that he has maybe made a kill and treat it, we can actually see nicely into this cresting of marula trees. All right. So with a big male like this, it's most likely a territorial male. Sorry about that. So there should be some audio as well, that sort of sawing sound that they make. Does not travel as far as a lion's, but still goes quite a distance. Now for me, if this is Tingana, I have a happy face because we got the leopard tracks, and then I've got like half a sad face because Tingana likes to show himself to me very briefly and then disappear forever and ever and ever. I'm hoping, because Vilde's on the car with me, if this is Tingana, he might decide to be a little bit more polite today, but you never know. Oh, Vilde, we also had Mvula not far from here while you were on leave, as a thought. Yeah, big tracks like that. All right, so I'm not seeing them now, and would have been a huge direction change for him. So I'm just going to, not Ferrari Safari, but just pick up a little bit of speed to try and get around to the cut line and to the corner and see what's happening. Anna Marie, you're saying you would love to see Tingana for Feline Friday. I would also like to see Tingana or any feline for you for Feline Friday, but yes, Tingana, let's go with that. Let's put our energies and our vibes towards seeing Tingana. Oh, and as well, the elephant tracks that we were tracking earlier, we have left them for now because we are more interested in these fresh leopard tracks. But we can always loop back around to those elephants once again. I think today is going to be a nice warm day. I think we're going to get up around sort of 30, 32, which will be good. Be very, very good. Nice heat. You can actually see, I'll just stop here. You can actually see a lot of the new shoots of green grass popping up here in front, in amongst the dried up grass. Yeah, everybody can see that there. So this is what happens after a nice little bit of rain at the beginning of our summer. And then it mustn't stay cloudy for too long because the grass also needs the sunlight. They have to photosynthesize, yeah? So it needs the sunlight to come out as well. But we're getting a good basis for our summer. There was a little information passed yesterday from the South African Weather Service that we're coming into a La Nina period. And I think later this afternoon we'll probably have a longer chat about El Nino, La Nina, and what does all of that mean. But basically South Africa is in store for a very, very wet summer. Which is good to a point. We don't necessarily want floods like we had in 2012 and 2013. That can be a little bit much, but a wet summer is a very welcome forecast for this year because of the drought that we had last year. We need to build back up our water table. Ooh, speaking of water, James has found some water, so let's head over to him and see what might be lurking there.
Well, what we have lurking is definitely some reptile life in the form of terrapins. And then we've got some Egyptian geese which are now taking off, trying to get away from us. And I want to see if the egg that we found the other day, well, that Senzo found the other day, is still here. Have you seen it again? Not? Is it gone? He's just sort of shaking his head and smiling slightly gormlessly at me, as if to say, "Shame you, poor man." It was round here, wasn't it? Let's have a look. An enormous, it's the shell's there, but it's been cracked open. Ooh. I think it's hatched. Look at that. Heberto, ndikombele kupfuniwa kwalan. I want Herbie to identify it. I'm pretty sure it's a goose egg, and I'm not sure that it would have hatched. I think it probably fell out of a nest. Ah, yeah, so Tristan says he saw it and it was leaking yolk. So obviously it didn't hatch. So something's eaten it. I'm going to go with goose egg that fell out of a nest, and now I'm going to ask Herbert. Herbert, where's your one at Tanzania?
Yeah.
Goose.
Yeah.
Goose. Fallen out of a nest.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have laid it here, hey?
No.
Yeah. So Herbie says no, not laid here. Isn't that interesting? It's a big egg. Let me take it out and show you the size. I mean, that is substantially larger than any chicken egg. Isn't that cool? But again, where the nest is that it fell from, or perhaps maybe even the female goose around here is just a little inexperienced, and maybe that's why she put it over here, I'm not sure. Anyway, that's the story there. Goose egg. In the background, you might be able to hear the sounds of the blacksmith lapwing tinkling away. It's not very blacksmith sounding, I don't think, but that's the case. Now let's move up to the water's edge and see if we can see the reptile of which I spoke a little bit earlier. Do you see it there, Senzo? Now you see, every single time I had an American guest on my vehicle and we saw one of those, they'd say, "Oh, a turtle!" Which of course they are not. They are terrapins. And I don't know if you get terrapins in the continental US, but it's basically a freshwater turtle. I think I said they were turtles the first time I saw them as well. We've got a very interesting question from Angie coming through, and this is how I heard it. Angie, your question came through to me as, do snakes bark in the early morning? My small brain then managed to figure out that you weren't asking whether they bark or not, but whether they bask or not in the early morning sun. Absolutely you would find snakes basking, but the reason we don't see a lot of snakes, and people... It's one of the things that people fear most in all the world. Snakes and public speaking are the two things that people fear most in the world. And so people often ask, well, aren't you afraid of snakes? Aren't you scared you're going to stand on a snake? Don't you see a lot of snakes? Have you been bitten several times by a snake? Is it likely that if I come out there I will die of a snake bite? And the answer to all of those questions is no. There are a lot of snakes, yes, but they hear us coming. They feel the vibration of our movements and they scuttle away. So they may well be basking on the very path that we've just taken to come down to Treehouse Dam here, but they would have heard us coming and moved away. Snakes almost universally are afraid of human beings and will move away from us if they can possibly avoid having any form of contact with us. So they are definitely around. You would expect them, if you were walking very silently, to be basking, perhaps on a termite mound exposed to the sun so that they can get going and go hunting during the course of the day. Very good question. Thank you, Angie. Cody, that's also a very good question. You're 15 years old and you say, do we have to be careful of animals where we go near the water? At this time of the day, in general, the answer is yes. You have to be careful all the time of the animals. A, that you don't disturb them, and B, that they don't disturb you. And at the water's edge, yes, you're correct. You have to be extra vigilant. Just slightly less so in the morning, of course, because it's not hot. And so very few animals will come down to drink during the very early morning. As it starts to get warmer, often you'll find things like elephants coming down to the water's edge. Buffalo certainly will come and lurk in the bushes around here before coming to lie in the water during the heat of the day. So yes, most certainly you have to be more careful when you're walking up to the water than you might otherwise. That's a very good question. Let's head up onto the dam wall. Herbert's just checking the other side for tracks of leopards. Conspicuous by their absence, the tracks are. Not Herbert. You're getting a nice picture of me. Very nice, thank you, Senzel. I'll pose now for you. Right, that's enough of that. Kirsten? Right, we are now going to go all the way to Kenya in the next 10 seconds to Pyjamas Patterson, who is now scouring the floor of the Mara with her spanky new cameraman, and hopefully they'll have something interesting to show you in the next 2 seconds roundabout now. Apparently Jamie's audio is not working. That is a pity. Come, they will fix that. We are going to continue. We have milked Treehouse Dam for what it is worth. We will join Roberto and Ralph the other side. Okay. I must say, this is a great sadness to me. This tree fell over as a result of the sort of reworking of the dam here. And it used to be a huge, there's a canary on the top of it. It used to be a huge repository of life. There were weavers' nests in it, and birds used to come and sit here before they went down to drink, and there were insects underneath it, and lizards and monitors and that sort of thing, and now it's kind of a bit of a sad situation. Can you see it? That is the yellow-fronted canary. There they are. There are quite a few of them in this quarry bush here. Let's go a little bit closer. Now the temperature today is 61 degrees Fahrenheit, 16 Celsius, and that is extremely unusual for this time of the year. You can hear them swizzling away, but not on this tree. They've moved. Let's have another look. There they are. They're in the top of this Virchilia nigrescens tree. You see them? Yeah. Good, well done. Very good job there. Oh, it's a lovely peaceful morning. The woodland kingfisher, of course, returned, calling away. Scimitar in the background. Of course, the lapwing, the orioles. The canaries, the waxbills. A lovely sound of the black-crowned chagra. Always sounds to me like, why? Come on. Let us continue. Right, I believe we are now going to try and go back to the Mara yet again. This time to the other half of the Pyjamas Leo Smith partnership, and well, with a little bit of red and frightening breakfast. Oh.
Well, thank you, James. I hope you're enjoying your walk this morning. We've caught up with the Angama Pride, who are looking very, very fat. But isn't that morning light glorious? You can see all the flies buzzing around her, catching the light. And as I said, looking very fat. I think all the lions here, these particular lions, are very fat at the moment. It looks like they've had a successful evening. And there is a male lion here as well. But he's flat in the grass, so we're going to stick with the female. She's heading back towards where some of the other females and the cubs are, but they've managed to catch, it looks to be a buffalo. It's quite difficult to see in the grass, but let's just see where she's going first. Now remember, this is coming to you 100% live from the Masai Mara in Kenya, and we're with the Angama Pride of Lions. So, a pride we've spent a lot of time with since we've been here. They live just below our camp. I heard them roaring and making lots of noise last night. Oh, there we go. Tackle, attempt to tackle. And you can see lots of little ears and heads in the long grass. So that's where the rest of the pride are presently. Now, as she disappears into the longer grass, I'm just going to say a quick good morning. Good morning. My name is Brent Leo Smith, and I have Archie on camera for the first time. How are you doing, Arch? Good. Awesome. So we decided to go have a look down towards the northern sections of the triangle. I want to go see if I can catch up with the Of course, I'm warthogs yesterday, but on our way there we bumped into the Angamas, and if we have a look in the long grass, there we go, you can see, it's quite difficult to see, but I'm pretty sure it's a buffalo, and just to the left of the buffalo, lying very fat and happy in the grass, is a big male lion. So I'm sure he was definitely helping in the takedown yesterday. Remember, hashtag Safari Live if you have any questions for us, and it'll be great to hear from you. Oh, there we go, heads up. Hello, boy. This will be one of the Chitwa boys or triangle boys. Oh, he's got a bit of a fat face. He looks like he might have taken a smack. Now, Alexandra's wondering, do the male lions in the Mara have bigger territories than in Djuma, for example? And the answer to that, Alexandra, is no. The male lion coalitions at Djuma have far bigger territories. Now, that is because of prey density. So the male lions here and the female lions have much smaller territories than the ones in the greater Kruger. So the Angamas, for example, very rarely leave an area of about 2,000 hectares, where there is the Ngahumas, they have a much bigger territory, probably close to 10,000 hectares. And because the female territories are smaller, the male territories are smaller. Still quite a lot bigger than the female territories, probably 5,000 to 6,000 hectares, whereas something like the Birmingham boys probably have close on 15,000 hectares. That is their territory. Why is your head up? I can't see anything behind us that could interest you, or you just got tired of lying on your side. And you can see all the bugs this morning buzzing about. Now, of course, there's a lot of insects around at the moment. We are in the small rainy season, so we've had quite a lot of rain, and lots of flies and all sorts of hohos. For those of you who don't know what a hoho is, it's a South African term for any form of bug. Crawling, creeping, all hohos. He's probably not going to last too long with his head up before all going to see the head's getting heavy again. Now, he probably will move away from the carcass during the day as it gets warmer, find a little bit of shade, but they won't move too far away from the carcass because there are a lot of vultures around. Oh, he's gonna treat us. Hello, big boy. Oh, look at that belly. Oh, look at those flies. Oh, this morning light is gorgeous in the Masai Mara this morning. Now, you will notice that the left ear looks a bit floppy, and I know a lot of you have noticed, so I can't really see. I know it. That is, maybe, as I said, it looks like he's been in a bit of an argy-bargy. He's got a bit of a fat face, some swelling. Now, that could have obviously come from taking down a big prey animal, or it could have come from a fight over the meat, or it could have come from a fight with another male lion. And unless you're there, it's very, very difficult to say. Now you can see he's eating grass at the moment. Now lions will do that. It helps them aid with digestion. Sometimes it'll actually even cause them to vomit. And lions, being quite gross creatures that they are, will often eat up their own vomit once they're vomited out. Now, a lot of people wonder, do big cats get fur balls? Indeed they do. And in their fur balls, a very smelly, gross thing. It's often got little shards of bone, hoof, horn, other stuff, as well as their hair. That is obviously causing the animal a bit of problem, so they do upchuck it, so to speak. Isn't that beautiful? The vistas in the Mara are just to die for. Okay, well, I don't think much more is going to happen around the Angama Pride, so I'm going to go head off towards the Olololos to see if they are looking for bacon for breakfast. While we do that, let's see how Jamie's search for another breakfast meat, the sausages, is going.
The search for the sausages hasn't really progressed very far because I've been distracted by the numerous elephants that are hanging out in this area. So we've got a lovely herd, and I must say, I really feel like there were more elephants around than when I left. I don't know why that would be. I don't know if I'm just imagining it. I don't know if perhaps I've just missed them. But either way, it is an absolute pleasure to spend some time with them. I really do miss them when we're on leave. Now, that female over there on the left is absolutely massive. In fact, there's two very, very large females in this particular herd. And a couple of times I've been caught out in the Mara thinking that the elephant I'm looking at is a male, when in fact it is a very large tusked female. And you can see, if you look at the grass that she's feeding on, of the red oat grass, essentially red grass, is starting to seed. And I think that the elephants are absolutely loving it at the moment because it just gives that additional boost of nutrients for them. It's fresh and green. I hear that you've been looking at the green shoots on Djuma. Here the growth is truly luscious. A couple of steps ahead of South Africa at the moment in terms of greenery. But it's wonderful to hear that there's been rain in the Lowveld. They really needed it. Hey girl, you don't know such things. There's rain here all the time. A youngster hanging out with her. Probably an older calf. Really peaceful, and it's a lovely still morning as well. Now, this particular area is where we see the black and white casqued hornbills all the time, and I have to tell you that during our trip to Uganda, it was basically common. We saw them every single day. They'd come and call outside our room. It's one bird that I didn't manage to get a photograph of, though. To think that I struggled for 5 months in the Mara to put one on camera. So this is right on the boundary between the territory of the Angamas and the Sausage Tree Pride. Oh, is that little one having a drink? I think it is. Some breakfast milk to wash down the grass. Wait, Mum, where are you going? Come back. Don't take the milk bar away. Anna-Marie, you say that you really enjoy the magnificent tusks of the Mara Ellies, especially the females. I agree with you. It's something quite special to see. I mean, look at this female. If we opened with that shot, the immediate assumption would have been that we were looking at a bull elephant. It's a noticeable difference. There we go. We've now got a lovely profile shot of the head. And that's actually one of the ways for our new viewers that you can tell the difference. Okay, apart from the fact that she's suckling a little one. Let's take that out of the equation. Let's talk about her profile and her forehead. Because that's one of the ways that you can, without being able to look between the elephant's legs, that's one of the ways that you can tell the difference between a male and a female. And when she turns her head again, you'll be able to see a very angular nature of her forehead. There, if you look there, it moves straight across the top of her head and then cuts down to the trunk at an angle there. That's the angle I'm talking about. Perfect. Thank you, Adrian. So that's the angle that I'm talking about. Now, in females, that angle is very prominent. In the males, it's quite a smooth. Their foreheads are much smoother and a curve around from the top of the head to the trunk. You don't really get that sharp angle. So that's one of the ways when we're looking at elephants that we can determine whether or not it is a male or a female. It's not always that easy, especially if they've got their backs to you, because male elephants, their testicles are internal. So their testicles sit up near their kidneys, and they're not prominent, obviously not visible, which makes the task a bit more tricky. Another way, of course, is to look at enlarged mammary glands on the female elephants. They're pectoral mammary glands. Miss Groove, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the Sunrise Safari. You want to know what my most touching moment with an elephant has been? I've had a few. I find that elephants to me are one of the most emotionally charged creatures, if that makes any sense. They've got such a developed sense of emotion and connection to each other that it's difficult for me to choose. I think if I had to, especially live sightings, I would say that the one that we experienced on Djuma last year with Fang, was it last year? My goodness, how time flies. With Fang's herd, and there was a brand new baby elephant, and it just so happened we were lucky enough to see it take, not its first steps, but within a few hours of its birth, and it was following the herd, and it fell down an embankment. And Mom immediately rushed to it because it screamed, and she picked it up and comforted it because they're wobbly. You know, learning to walk is a tricky thing when you're 100 kilograms. And the whole herd, especially Fang, rushed forward and went and touched the baby. All the older females went and touched the baby, made sure it was okay, made sure Mom was okay. And then very to be picking up, the Mom picked up branches and moved it out of its way. And I think that to me was the most touching elephant sighting I've had in a long time. I know that Tristan had another extraordinary sighting with Fang a couple of months after that, where we still don't know exactly what it was that happened, but it was fascinating behavior in terms of the way that she was so incredibly trusting with Tristan. Tristan works. I trust Tristan. In terms of his proximity to her and the fact that she kept walking up to him, I feel that we connect with elephants, or at least they're intelligent enough to connect with us in some way. But sometimes a touching elephant sighting is even just when they show that willingness to walk right past the vehicle, at times close enough to touch, without any sign of aggression or anger or anything like that, or even concern. It's tricky to choose. But, of course, because baby elephants are so adorable, I think all of those touching sightings would have to concern some sort of little one. Speaking of little ones, let's bounce back across to South Africa and find out whether or not the Styx have their cubs with them.
Hello everybody, hello. We have lions. So VM and I have been tracking together. It's so nice to have someone that tracks the way that VM does. Senzo also does an amazing job with tracking, as does Jandre. And because of where they sit, it really lends a good hand. And this is what we have found. We found the two older set of cubs of the Styx Pride. Not the little ones, and nothing with the adults yet, but there's been a lot of hyenas calling in this area. And so there is a possibility that the mums have done a wonderful job somewhere not far from us and possibly made a kill. But these cubs are not going to move until mums and aunties come to fetch them. Well, mums and aunties and possibly grandmom, depending on the makeup of the females. So last night we were stalking the Styx along the cut line. We are just north of that area. And so what I am guessing has happened is the mums have left them here and then got off hunting, and then at some point they will come and collect, because all of the cubs, the teeny ones that are not here, as well as these two other sets, are all too small for hunting. Very curious about something in the distance, and they would be this time of year. From this time of year, sorry, this time of morning and this age that they are. So they're huddled together because it's a little bit cold, but also with it being cooler, they are going to have some energy. They just know better than to move where they can't be found. So a mongoose, an impala, birds, anything is going to sort of catch their attention. I once had a couple of cubs this age who were left like this, and some giraffe came past, and one of the young males, like this little one that we're looking at now, about that size, started stalking this huge giraffe, and there was a few of them, and you could see these giraffes looking at this lion and seeing that it was a lion, but realizing that it's a little lion, and sort of cocking their heads a little bit and going, "What are you doing? Why are you stalking us? You're so teeny tiny." You can see just the little bit of peach fuzz mane that's there on the side of his face and around his neck. Yeah, they are looking much better with their mange situation. There's one or two where it's more obvious, but they're in this little bundle of cubbos, so it's harder to see, but they are looking much better. I'm still amazed at how many males. So we counted 10 cubs in total with the Styx, and I believe we got up to, there was 2 that I couldn't ID properly 100% just because of where they were sitting and how they were moving, but it looks like there's at least 7 males within these 3 sets of cubs. And so if all of them survive in a few years, there's the possibility of a huge male coalition, which excites me beyond belief. All right, Jamie is up in the Masai Mara. She has a wonderful elephant. Jamie, it's nice to have you back from leave. It's nice to be able to work with you finally. So we're going to head back up to the Mara and see what she has to say.
Absolutely, Noel. I couldn't agree more, and I'm thrilled to be working with you, and hopefully one day we actually get to work together in person as opposed to halfway across the continent. And we're sitting again with elephants and really enjoying their company this morning. And the most notable thing I think about this particular herd is this female over here. She's one-tusked for a start. That's pretty common. We see that regularly. Chances are she broke off that tusk, or perhaps even wasn't born with it. There's a possibility. Oh no, wait, hold on. I think it's actually there. It's just slightly deformed, and it curves underneath her trunk. Yes, it does. Oh my goodness. My girl, you should have had braces when you were younger. That is most definitely a slightly skewed tusk. That's the first time I've ever seen one that skew. Goes right underneath her trunk. I didn't even realize it was there. And you can actually see there's a chip on the other one as well. I think she probably, just like with human beings, some people are born with teeth that get cracked easily or perhaps aren't properly formed, and the same applies to elephants. And a tusk, of course, is a tooth. It's a modified tooth. That's really interesting. It could also have been an injury at the growth point that caused that slightly skew growth, but it doesn't seem to hamper her feeding in any way. You'll probably find that the only thing she has is a bit of a callus underneath her trunk, where her top lip and her trunk are fused. I imagine she's got a callus there from the trunk rubbing up against the tusk. That's fascinating. I've never ever seen that before. Hey girl, what happened there? Jenny, animation, you say that you've seen this elephant before. I would not be in any way surprised. She's got a very old calf suckling from her. I would not be surprised at all. I'm sure that we've come to recognize individual elephants here in the Mara. Sorry, I'm distracted because that calf is so big it can't even suckle properly. It's got its trunk tucked under Mom's leg. Old. Yes, trunk dangling there. But it's entirely possible we know this individual. Ubombo girl, the markings on her side of her body, I've been looking at those as well. That, in fact, was what I was going to talk about before I noticed her very distinctive tusk. It's one of two options. One is a growth, a benign growth that perhaps is sitting underneath the layer of the skin. The other is the possibility that that was a nasty injury, or two injuries, potentially, there on her femur, and then along her side as well. And it could be a scar. It could be where the skin has drawn together and obviously not healed perfectly. Animals are phenomenally resilient, and it's very common to see animals that have survived exceptionally traumatic injuries, an injury that would put a human being in hospital. But they manage to get on with things, and they've got a very, very strong immune system. So often they survive what we would think would be almost a death sentence to them from a human perspective. I think it looks like a scar, personally. I'm not so sure. You see how the skin on her leg is a little bit of a fold, almost like it's pulled together. Now, that could easily have come from another elephant. It could have come from a traumatic attack by a predator when she was very young. Or the alternative is that, unfortunately, she wandered into an area where perhaps she wasn't welcome. So there's no fences around here. And although the conflict between the animals and people is managed as much as possible, it might be that she went and raided somebody's crops. And possibly as a result of a spear wound. And I'm not going to pretend that's not a possibility. It's unlikely, but it is a possibility. Vegas, I was looking at that. So what Vegas is looking at is the temporal gland. So between the ear and the eye, and Vegas is obviously a regular viewer and is wanting to know why she's dripping from that gland. Is she stressed? It could easily be that she is. I've seen elephants drip from their temporal glands even when they're excited, when they've encountered another herd and they've gone racing in her direction, in their direction, and they're happy and excited and slightly overwrought. And then you find that they drip from that temporal gland. So the temporal gland is a gland. And obviously glands play an enormous role in terms of hormones and in terms of olfactory communication, so communication by scent. You could also find, potentially, that she's coming into estrus. There is an increased stress level when female elephants come into estrus. Her calf is old enough for that to be the case. When they come into heat, when they're ready to mate, it might be that that is the case as well. It could also be that earlier this morning there was a big male around that harassed them. They might have chased a hyena. It's very difficult for us to tell. You can see by her body language, the fact that she's feeding, she's not looking about, her tail is relaxed and droopy, an occasional swish. All of that tells me that she's relaxed now. She's not stressed now. So it's difficult to tell exactly what caused the secretion from those glands initially. Might even have been a fight that she had to separate the two youngsters. It's tricky to tell. But you are absolutely right that secretion, heavy secretion from the temporal glands is often a sign of unsettled, elephants feeling particularly unsettled. And in situations where you watch females really get cross, when a breeding herd is coming together to defend the little ones, when they're being particularly harassed by a bull in must, when they are chasing predators, you'll see that they secrete, all of the big females secrete very, very heavily from their temporal glands. And you'll find there is usually accompanied by a lot of talking, rumbling. They communicate with each other all the time. And when elephants greet each other, when female elephants greet each other, what they'll do is they'll walk up to each other face to face, and then they'll put their trunks over each other's heads so that it sort of drapes across the top, and then they'll touch the tip of their trunk to the other elephant's temporal gland. And they'll touch it and they'll give it a jolly good sniff, and it's really beautiful to watch when they do it in a peaceful manner. And it makes you wonder what's going on in their minds, what kind of way they're interpreting that smell. Learning all about each other, what the reproductive status is, if they're stressed, if they're not. And then often what they'll do is they'll take their trunk off the other female's head and tuck it into their mouths and touch the top of their mouths. And that's because they can't phlegm and grimace, which is that curled upward lip motion, in order to taste the smell, draw it up into the special organ on the roof of their mouths. So they have to do it with their trunks. I think that's a scar. Personally, I'm not sure whether you all agree with me. You do see elephants with skin growth though, so that's a possibility as well. Okay, right, while our elephants wander off and we go in search of the lions and of course the Sausage Tree Pride cubs, Noelle's had more luck than I have this morning, and she has already found her lions.
Yes, we are still with our cute and cuddly little Styx cubbos, who are being extremely diligent. There's one of the younger males that was busy off to the side and then went around, and then he's come back towards his siblings. It's amazing how much they want to assert their independence, but also how they need each other at the same time. And then of course keeping warm. Now, we've been sitting here patiently watching these adorable faces and trying to keep an eye out for mums and aunties and grandmoms and things coming back. Now, something that's oh, shame, a little bit of a stretch there. Something that's interesting to note, that if they do start coming back, let's say they have made a kill somewhere and they do start coming back, you're going to start hearing ooh, ooh, ooh. It's a contact call that can go up to about 4 kilometers. But what you'll notice is when they hear the sound from their mums, they will pick up their heads, but they're not going to run straight there. They wait until a certain point, and I don't know if it's the pitch of the contact call or possibly the proximity, but they do definitely wait to a certain point, and then we'll start moving. I've seen them start moving when the mum's about 1 kilometer away, and I've also seen them wait until mum comes directly up to them and cuddles with them a little bit and then moves off. I think it all just depends on what she's actually saying to them, to be honest. But you can see there's a little bit of boredom starting to step in. Judy, you're saying this is a snuggle fest. This is indeed a snuggle fest for sure. I can't say I would want to be part of it. Lions smell pretty bad, but it is cute to watch. You can see those little canines popping in. This is pure boredom, what's happening here. This is oral fixation with a bit of boredom. I was just thinking now, when we were coming down the cut line, VM picked up the tracks on the left-hand side of the vehicle, but I've only seen from these youngsters. I haven't seen any from the females crossing over, which is interesting. So I wonder if possibly they've maybe moved themselves a little bit over here from the 200 meters where they were south of the road as a thought. James is busy with something in the road, interestingly enough. So I think while we're keeping an eye on our Snugglefest of Lions here, we should head on over to him and see what he has in store.
Well, the first thing we saw on the road, and not very far from here, of course, was the lions. On account of the fact that we saw Noelle, we didn't know where she was, and then we looked to the side and there were the lions. So that was quite exciting, but upset that she managed to find them first. It would have been very nice to find them on foot, but well done to her. And so we come from the sublime lions and elephants to the ridiculous, a turd. The question is, of course, what turd is this? Who made this turd? And when did they make it? And where did they go after making this turd? I'm not going to use the word turd again. We all think that it is a franklin. And we think that because here are a whole lot of franklin sort of scratchings. The franklins come along much like chickens do, and they scratch about in the ground. They pick up little bits and pieces, seeds, insects, that sort of thing. But the interesting thing about what should we call this? We can only call it a turd. It is a turd. Is, of course, the combination here, and I've spoken about this quite a lot. Reptiles and frogs and birds, I'm not sure about fish, but all of them produce all of their waste from one opening, the cloaca, and that opening, what it means is that the urine and the feces are combined in one, outpouring, if you like. And in the case of a bird, what you have here is the solid from the food, is the dark stuff there, and then the sort of slightly more attractive white stuff, there is no smell here, by the way, is the uric acid that comes from the urine. Isn't that interesting? So it all comes out together. And so, yes, Deborah, you say, turd time with James. Yes, exactly. Turd Fridays. I think we should make that a thing. Rather than feline Fridays, let's have turd Fridays. Good. So I think it's, as far as I'm aware, it's only mammals that have got two escape hatches, as it were, for separation of the waste material. And I think all the rest of the vertebrates have got only one. I'm just not sure what happens with fish, of course. I've never seen a fish turd. Right, let's just go back. Oh, in fact, it's a very nice link here. We have got a black and white turd. Let us go across to a black and white animal.
Here we go. Well, I'm not quite sure what James is looking at, but I'm pretty sure a black and white zebra is far, far nicer. Now, this zebra is keeping me in this area. Every now and then it looks towards the lugger and look like that, just like that. And this is the area where the Olololo Pride were yesterday. But I can't find them just yet. But also a little bit earlier, the zebra was snorting. So I'm wondering, are these lions not just lying low in a croton thicket right here? Well, the zebras seem a bit calmer now. I'm just going to carry on along the lugger for a little bit. Now, of course, the lions might have moved across to the other side of the lugger where we have no chance of getting to. But so they finished off that warthog about here yesterday. The females were still very hungry. So I'm wondering if they might have not left the cubs somewhere around here and then headed off. But I can't see anything here. Now, of course, they could have also headed down towards the river. So if I get no joy in this area, which I'm not getting at the moment, let's head down towards the Mara River. There's no sign of them here. And the grass is short. One would expect us to spot them. So maybe they headed towards the river. They do spend quite a bit of time down at the river as well. Oh, it's going to be a stinker today. The sun is already very, very bright. Now, remember, if you've got any questions for us, hashtag Safari Live. Be great to hear from you. Oh, we got some elephants coming up. Now, I know Jamie's had that very strange elephant with the strange tusks, and it is amazing how the different circumstances, whether it be genetic or external circumstances like an injury, can make an elephant's tusks grow in strange ways. Now, the record for an elephant was, I think it was 6 tusks, 4 and 2 coming out of the top jaw. So that is very, very strange, very unusual. But things like that do happen, and the wonderful thing is we're out here so often and for so long. Elephants. Hi guys, you're looking very relaxed this morning. Lovely little herd. Mister, what you up to? Oh, what did you get there? Nice little bush from out between all the grasses. Difficult to see what it was from that distance. Oh, slowly heading off towards the south where there's some longer grass. It's quite difficult to pick at the short grasses, but they do manage with that incredibly dexterous trunk of theirs. So, little breeding herd, few females, young male or 2. It's such a peaceful morning here in the Mara. It seems like I'm having problems with my comms. Sorry about that. Kirsten, can you go again? Let's have a look. Well, Robert says elephants are his favourite, and thank you for showing them. My pleasure, Robert. They're one of my favourite creatures as well. It's definitely a peaceful quality, and you sort of get a sense of peace after spending lots of time around ellies. Well, while they move off towards the Laga, I'm going to move off to the Mara River. Now, from the largest and heaviest mammal on Earth, land mammal that is, of course, let's go across to the tallest land mammal on Earth with Jamie.
He is, of course, referring to myself being the tallest land mammal on Earth. Not really. We've got some giraffe off to the right, feeding on some low bushes. And the Maasai giraffe, of course. So for our new viewers, different to the giraffe that you will see with Noel or James or Tristan, it is a different giraffe entirely. Now, weirdly enough, as far as I know still, the IUCN only recognizes one species of giraffe, which is interesting because research, very recent research and DNA testing, has completely turned that on its head. So it's always been a hotly contested thing. How many subspecies of giraffe are there? How many species? And it's something that biologists have argued over, not argued, perhaps argued is the wrong word, but gone into a certain level of academic debate. That's what the giraffe thinks of that. Put your tongue in your mouth. There you go. What are you looking at? Something attracted its attention, but I suspect it's just another giraffe. So there's been much debate about the various giraffe species and how they all fit together. When we were in Nairobi just a few weeks ago, we went to Giraffe Manor, where of course they've got the very endangered Rothschilds, or a subspecies of Nubian giraffe. And it was a truly interesting experience because we always... Oh, hold on. Let's go to Noel and have a look at the lions.
Hello everyone, hello. Stick with me, this is super exciting. We have a reunion happening with these little youngsters from the Styx and their mums. I'm just trying to get you into position as best as I possibly can. Just stick with me. Hang on. Here they come. They could hear these mums before we could even see them or hear them ourselves. That we've got the cubs right next to me here. Here they come running through the bush. So I'm sure that those mums are busy calling a little bit of a oof, oof, oof. I'm just gonna stop and listen for a bit. It looks like, hold on. Listen, do you hear? You hear them? Sorry guys, I know I'm being quiet, but that sound, we've been waiting for that sound. And here comes one of the young males. Waiting till the last moment to go and have a look. Now I could just barely see they don't want to be part of this, but I could just see a little bit of movement. We're going to try and see if we can see through the trees any of this greeting. But I think we caught most of the action just in time. Super excited. I'm so happy you could hear the sounds that we were talking about. That oof, oof. Now, unfortunately, I cannot go farther south from where I am. This is our southern boundary. And the update that I got from one of the other guides is that those females have indeed made a kill south from here. We're moving north. Unfortunately, they did not come out to show their faces, and it looks like we've just managed to catch the last little bit, but that was super exciting. That was really great interaction. Did you see how interested the cubs were, how their ears picked up, how they started loping, running to their mums and their aunties calling? Yeah, that was a good moment. We just managed to get it. So they're going to be south and on that kill probably for the rest of today, maybe until tomorrow. Let's head back up to Jamie, who's in the Mara, hoping to find her cuteness of lion cubs with the sausage tree pride, I believe, who I've never met. Let's see if she has had any success.
Especially because I was busy muttering on about giraffe species and subspecies. It was all very dry and boring. So I'm glad that we managed to get the Styx before they vanished off across our boundary. I'm still going to finish what I was talking about though, because, well, we're here and we're with the giraffe, and it's something that for those of you who have joined us during the journey, of the discovery of the various giraffe species, or at least the classification of the giraffe species, you'll be interested to know, those of you who've been following. Remember that article that came out last year about the 4 species of giraffe and the rest of them were just subspecies, and it was the northern giraffe, the southern giraffe, reticulated, and the Maasai were the 4 species, and that the rest were subspecies. A new article's been published relatively recently that says that there are some problems with the data sets that the original article analyzed, and as a result the conclusions should not be taken as absolute truth. And so the classification of giraffe continues, and the arguments of the various scientists, that particular article, the original one, was based on serious DNA testing and sampling and comparing the DNA structures of the various different types of giraffe, and essentially classified on where the giraffe had separated from each other, and where there was no connection for a good few years, let's just put it that way. between the various species. So that was the way that they did it. What are you looking at? I've been checking to see what this giraffe's staring at. I cannot see what it is. The only thing I can see that it's looking at. Now, typically, giraffes stare when they see a predator. There's now 2 giraffes staring. We're just going to turn around quickly. Let's just see what's going on. Just in case. I found leopards that way before, by looking at what a giraffe is looking at. But I was talking about the fact that we got to go to Giraffe Manor and feed the giraffe, which is very interesting. Now you've moved. Let me just turn around 1 second, and then Chilaxi, I will get to your question. I know what you're looking at. I'm sorry. I know what you're looking at. They're looking at the bush breakfast, the balloon breakfast. That's what they're after. I don't think they want to go and join them, just to clarify. I think they're just looking at the movement. No, don't run away. Don't run away, pretty girl. It's a young giraffe there. Might not even be a female. She's quite young to tell. I think it is a female, though. Let's have a closer look at the one that's just ducked away from us. No, definitely a lady. Right, so Chilaxian out. You were wondering about the sounds that giraffe make. Up until quite recently, it was believed that giraffe were totally silent creatures, and to a certain degree that is pretty much true. They don't make a distinctive sound apart from a low humming sound. And it's very, very seldom that you get to hear it. And it is very, very low, so it's subtle. Let's put it that way, so they don't roar or trumpet or anything like that. Can you imagine a giraffe that trumpeted? Entertaining thought. Perhaps bellowed. But they do hum. And that is pretty much the extent of a giraffe's vocalization. So most of their communication will therefore be visual. And it's just subtleties in terms of their body language. Slightly change of position in their ears, where they're looking, the way that the stance of their bodies. So you'll see with males squaring up to each other, they do a slightly sideways walk and try and make themselves look as tall and as large as possible to intimidate them. There we go, look at that. She's loving that particular bush, wrapping her tongue around it. They're beautiful, aren't they? Right, well, whatever we may talk about in terms of the different species of giraffe, it's certain that those in South Africa are very different from ours, but very excitingly, James has found some on foot.
Yes, well, I'd love to take credit for it. I actually haven't seen the animal yet. Herbert assures me that on the other side of the dam wall, we have got a southern giraffe as opposed to the Maasai version which you've just had in the Masai Mara. So what we're going to do before we chase it away is just stalk up on it with you, and hopefully we'll get a nice view. It's just the other side of the dam wall, and I wonder if it isn't having a drinky. Some dam water with its morning cocoa pops. Sensor didn't know that. He's just looked very surprised. He didn't know that giraffe favour cocoa pops in the mornings. Yes, he's looking very surprised. William, you're wondering about identifying individual giraffes and how we managed to do it. William, you could do it from spot patterns, as you suggest. Each giraffe, of course, has a unique system of patterning.